welcome back to Drunk Storytime with Quefish. I am Quefish. I'm drinking the Big Sipper red wine. We are going to be reading Not That Bad When You Get Used to It by Chamyl. And hello, both of you. Chapter 31 is adorable from what I can see. It's called #introductions. And unfortunately, I don't think that I don't think that it would look, because it's kind of visual. It's got pictures and emojis and stuff like that, but so I can't read it. But I will say that Aziraphale's has like that Kirby looking emoji thing. Like next to his name, I guess it's like a chat window thing, and of course Crowley has a snake. And they're exchanging pictures. Well, maybe I can do it. Okay. Now that I've like given you a minute and a half of telling you why I can't do it, I'll go ahead and do it. Cheers. Okay. So Crowley has a little snake emoji next to his name. Aziraphale has one of those Kirby looking things. Angel, you there? Aziraphale? Hello? Good evening, Crowley. How are you today? The heaven is that next to your name? On the left? Why, that's called a kamoji, I think. Very popular in Japan. I'm surprised you don't know that. This is, after all, your playing field rather than mine. You think what I'm doing on the internet is learning about emoticons? Don't answer that. Listen, I'm going to stream my screen to you so we can play Pictionary. Think you can handle that? Aziraphale? Angel? Yes, Crowley, I'm here. I was just looking at a picture of a snake with giraffe ears on. Very endearing. Oh, this fucking snake is adorable. Crowley. ... Also, I wanted to mention that I'm very proud of you for respecting social distancing rules in this trying times. Even though we can't get sick, it's very honorable of you. I roll. You say that because you don't know the mischief I can cause home alone with an internet connection. Anyway, I'm gonna start the stream. Just dick the join button. Click the join button. Have you clicked? Oh, those little squares are cute. Thank you, my dear. Squares? Hold on. How about now? I see a drawing of an owl. It seems to be wearing a bra. Perfect. You wanted to show me a drawing of an owl wearing a bra? Of course not. It's a game. Remember, I explained it to you. Can you explain it again? Sometime later. I don't understand this other game. What don't you understand? You and everyone else gets a prompt and you all write about it. Wouldn't everyone end up writing the same thing? You'd be surprised. Said every fanfic writer ever. Even more time later. Crowley was definitely drunk at that point of the evening, but Aziraphale was drunker. He kept his face so close to the camera that Crowley could only see a single green eye. It was green, right? The angel's eyes seemed to change color all the time. Angel, I think I'm falling asleep. He ran a hand over his face, then blinked a few times to keep himself awake for a few more minutes. A couple more minutes. That's fine, Aziraphale's voice said through the speakers of his computer. He batted his eyelashes and Crowley got the impression he was smiling. I can stay here. Until I'm fast asleep? Until you're fast asleep. Oh. Cute. Chapter 32. Like father, like son. The prompt is the Antichrist. Crowley knocks on Aziraphale's door in the middle of the night. Aziraphale is already awake and very surprised to see him. I'm in need of assistance, Crowley hisses, leaning heavily against the doorframe. Aziraphale gives him a long, inquisitive look. Is it related to the fact that you seem to be exceedingly pregnant? Bingo. Explain again why you did this to yourself, please. Aziraphale lets himself fall backward onto the couch, vaguely hoping it'll swallow him, as Crowley staggers towards a chair. I might have been a little drunk. Very drunk. A little drunk, as I was saying, and wondering how to convince the ambassador's wife I'd be a good nanny for the Antichrist when the time comes. So I thought maybe if I know exactly what she's gone through, the whole growing a baby inside her and pushing it out, we could bond over it. And yeah, I might have been a little more drunk than I remember. Aziraphale sighs, sinking into the couch, lips scrunching into a pout. At least that explains why I haven't seen you in months. Right. Crowley smooths down the tight black leather skirt that's been struggling to hold itself together around his bigger shape. Sorry about that. Anyway, contractions have started. Oh my gosh. The reason that that's funny is because when I was pregnant and I was about to, and I went into labor with my first child, that's pretty much exactly how the conversation went. I was living with my mom and I went and I woke up and I was like, oh, okay, water broke, having contractions, got in the shower because, and, I packed my bag and the whole time I'm just, like, okay, whatever. And I went, and I knocked on my mom's door and I was like, hey, I'm going to go to the hospital. And she was like, why? And I was like, I'm in labor. And she's like, oh my gosh, hang on, let me get dressed. I'll drive you. And I'm just like, I'm just in labor. And so, yes, having somebody just go, my contractions started. That's realistic to me. Everyone else is like, like other story. And not to say that I can't relate to that also, but having just that deadpan, yeah, whatever. That's exactly what I was. So anyway, contractions have started. Oh dear, and you came here. Aziraphale is on his feet immediately. Crowley, we need a doctor. Of course, why not? Let's call a human doctor. Then if I turn into a giant black snake in the middle of giving birth to what exactly, by the way? Crowley, you're not about to become a parent, are you? Oh, no, it's, well, how do I explain this to an angel? Aziraphale raises an eyebrow and crosses his arms, thinking it surely can't be harder than explaining how he got himself pregnant, which Crowley has just done quite easily. Have you ever seen a parent in a public place being absolutely desperate because their child, who's normally reasonable and quiet, is suddenly having the loudest meltdown? The corner of Aziraphale's lips twitched in irritation. Yes, he'd seen and heard it many times. Sometimes, much to his horror, inside his own bookshop. Right, that's because an agent of hell has momentarily swapped the child with, we have some extremely realistic dolls that have been programmed to scream their little hearts out. Well, figure of speech, they don't actually have hearts. Aziraphale cuts him off before he rambles any further, which the demon has a tendency to do when he's nervous. You're telling me you're giving birth to an infernal doll? Crowley blinks once, very slowly. Will you help? In the end, it goes much more smoothly than expected. I read that entire sentence wrong. In the end, it goes more smoothly than expected, which isn't saying much, considering Aziraphale was expecting a small apocalypse to happen. But all Crowley asks him to do is fill the tub, then he miracles the water to be dark and opaque so the angel won't see a thing. He undresses, and Aziraphale, torn between leaving and staying, settles on staying, looking pointedly at the floor between his feet to protect Crowley's modesty, even when the demon needs a hand to lower himself into the bathtub. Did you use a miracle to give yourself an epidural? Oh my god, that would be amazing. Aziraphale asks when Crowley's grunting seems a little too subdued for a person giving birth. About 10 of them. Aziraphale thinks that's fair. Yes it is. It's a couple of hours before Crowley gives one last long huff of breath and asks him to reach inside the tub to get the doll. Aziraphale dips his trembling hands into the water. With the last of his powers he has left, Crowley snaps his fingers, cleaning up himself, the doll, and turning the dark water into a bubble bath. Careful, it'll start screaming soon. It's what they're built for. But Aziraphale has the doll in his arms and is looking up curiously at him, perfectly content and silent. Crowley? Crowley! The angel has to raise his voice to snap Crowley out of whatever trance he seems to be in. I have a question. Crowley blinks twice in rapid succession, pulls himself up a little into a more dignified sitting position. Yes? Is there any particular reason this doll has blonde curls and blue eyes exactly like mine? That's called a wishful thinking doll. Oopsie. That's funny. Chapter 33. Natural Predator. Clothes and clothing mishaps. Crowley's long black nail tapped against the table. Explain again why we shouldn't use miracles for this? Aziraphale crouched on the floor and picked up his creation, some shapeless dark blob too big for his arms. We don't know if they're affecting his growth, Crowley. There are no studies on the subject. Studied on the... Crowley would have had an exasperated hand down his face, but he didn't want to risk smearing his perfect makeup. That shade of purple lipstick was hell to remove from the skin. It makes no sense. You make no sense. This is ridiculous. He was about to turn around and walk away when Aziraphale glanced at him with his trademark pleading stare. Looking pitiful and helpless, all alone, surrounded by scissors and threads and glue gun sticks, but no glue gun for some reason. Unfortunately for Crowley, it was a Saturday, and Saturdays were Brother Francis's day off, so Aziraphale had gotten rid of his ugly disguise, and the demon was particularly vulnerable to Aziraphale's good looks. Unfortunately for both of them, Warlock's 7th birthday party was in 2 hours, and he had very loudly expressed his wish a giant black snake would attend. So Aziraphale had done his utter best to fashion him one. Altering a 2-person horse costume, Crowley suspected. If you hadn't spent so much time convincing him snakes are the best creatures on this planet. Okay, fine, yes, I'll help. Crowley smoothed down his skirt, already knowing that this was going to be a long, long afternoon. What do I have to do? Aziraphale lit up like a Christmas tree. Let's try it on. I worked so hard on this. No, you did, Angel, Crowley tried to say, but the words got stuck in his throat when he saw Aziraphale undressing, leaving a jumbled mash of consonants in their place. What are you doing? Oh, well, it gets very hot in there. Have you ever worn a 2-person costume? The angel replied, stepping out of his trousers and standing in nothing but an undershirt and a pair of striped boxers. Crowley replied. He began undressing too, painfully aware of Aziraphale's ban on miracles, as he kicked away his heels, let his skirt drop to the floor, unbuttoned and took off his shirt, and was left in nothing but fishnet hold-ups and black lace underwear. He enjoyed feeling a little fancy, thought there was nothing wrong with it. He just wasn't planning on showing any of it to Aziraphale, is the thing. The angel looked at him like he'd just been struck by lightning, and had to try to figure out how his body worked all over again. So, Crowley pushed through the awkward silence. Let's do this. He took the costume from Aziraphale and stepped into it. After a moment, Aziraphale followed his lead, wearing the butt part of the snake. How in the heck? Unlike the angel, Crowley was lucky enough to have 2 badly cut holes to look through. So he did, twisting around until he found a mirror, and what a view he saw. Aziraphale had forgotten the left ear on, but at least he'd removed most of the horse's mane and tail. He'd added a tiny red tongue dangling from its mouth, and a long snake tail that wasn't half bad. The effect was completely ruined by the fact that Aziraphale very clearly didn't know how to wear the costume, though. Aziraphale, Crowley hissed, beginning to sweat. It really was hot under there. You have to lean forward a bit. If you stand straight, we're going to look like the weirdest camel the world's ever seen. Right. Can I... That is, I'm going to lose my balance if I don't... Yes, you can put your hands wherever. Crowley cut him off before it could get any more awkward, which was probably impossible at that point. The angel did as suggested, bent forward and put both hands on Crowley's ass, and the demon soon realized he could now feel the gentle push of Aziraphale's hot, wet breath between his buttocks. Why couldn't he have rested, like on the small of his back? Angel, Crowley whined, the sound sharp and strangled in his throat. Aziraphale didn't reply, instead tilting forward and beginning to lick at him through the flimsy underwear, fingers sneaking underneath the panties and spreading him open until the angel's nose was buried between his cheeks. Oh, well, there you go then. Gosh, I hope that's not part of the birthday show. When it was over, several hours later, Crowley's stockings were ruined at the knees. His hair was a mess, and Aziraphale was covered in lipstick marks from the nape of his neck to the side of his ankle. Needless to say, the costume was impossible to rescue, suspiciously stained in several places. Either way, the party must have started and finished a few hours ago. In fact, when Crowley located a clock, he realized it was 7 a.m. Shit, fuck, I'm late. He turned around to leave a kiss on Aziraphale's cheek, and the angel, the strap of his undershirt having slipped down his shoulder, looked absolutely adorable as he looked up at him with the beatific smile of the truly well-fucked. Have a nice day, my dear, Aziraphale said as Crowley zipped up his shirt and rushed out the door. A little while later, as he watched Warlock play in the garden, Mrs. Dowling came to stand next to him. Don't think he will forgive you so soon for missing his birthday party, she said, an eyebrow raised as she took in the absence of stockings. Crowley stared right back with all the confidence of a demon who could sense every inclination to sin a human had ever felt, and therefore had a hard time feeling judged. What makes you say that? But Mrs. Dowling just smiled. He said his favorite animal is now mongooses. No! Crowley looked back at her in abject terror. Not mongooses. Not mongooses. Chapter 34. Under Surveillance. Prompt. What do they do when they are... What do they do when they are apart? Weirdly enough, Aziraphale had had no objections to Crowley installing the demonic equivalent of a CCTV system in his bookshop. Actually, he'd been very enthusiastic at the idea, agreeing that it'd be for the best, now that they had defied heaven and hell. You just don't rest easy when Sandalphon has your home address, he'd said. Right, so there are 4 of them, Crowley had explained when he was done planting them. This one will let me see your front door. This one is aimed at your desk. The 2 in the back room will give me a view of the couch and one of the entire space from above. Planted was the right word for it. They didn't look like cameras. They didn't even look like human technology at all. They looked like beautiful houseplants. Leaves so dark they seemed black at first glance poked out from the terracotta pots, and a proud calla lily bloomed proud from its stem in the center. Crowley liked it to do things in style, after all. He'd invented ASMR. He'd heard a lady on the bus whining that she hated when people spoke in such a low voice it was basically a whisper, and he'd felt inspired. Anyway, the joke had turned on him when he'd realized that he couldn't fall asleep anymore without listening to some random human rubbing a teddy bear against a wooden surface or whatever. A rather silly habit of his he preferred to keep to himself. That's how he got the idea one night to turn on his TV and check on Aziraphale. Oh no. The angel was slowly turning pages of a big old book, and only a few minutes of watching him made Crowley fall asleep faster than an antichrist in a wicker basket. When he woke in the morning, Aziraphale was sipping his tea as he looked out the window, but he briefly glanced up at the camera plant and smiled, and Crowley had the impression the angel knew he was watching. After that night, it became a ritual. Crowley would come home at night, check that Aziraphale was safe, and then accidentally leave the TV on as he fell asleep to the gentle noises of experienced hands on old paper, or the scratchy sound of Aziraphale's old gramophone playing some vinyl. Occasionally, the angel would raise his gaze and smile, and Crowley felt like he was looking right at him. He definitely knew Crowley was watching, right? It was a Sunday night when Crowley got the answer to that question. Please let this be some nice voyeurism. After reading for a bit, Aziraphale folded his ridiculous little glasses and left them on the desk. He sat on the sofa in the back room and slowly removed the nitrile gloves. Nitrile? I don't know how to pronounce that word. He used to handle his rarest books. Crowley put down his phone to watch. Aziraphale untied the bow tie at his throat and left it hanging around his neck. Crowley sat up in his armchair. He undid the first few buttons of his shirt, exposing the smooth, milky white skin, and Crowley's jaw slacked open. He rolled up his sleeves with quick, precise movements, showing soft, strong forearms covered in golden fuzz inch after inch. Crowley sat on the edge of his seat. He unbuttoned his waistcoat, unhurried fingers gliding over well-loved velvet. He let it slide off his shoulders and drop to the sofa. Crowley smothered a noise against the back of his fist. He bent forward to untie his shoes. He took off each shoe with great care, wrapped the delicate shoelaces around a finger until they dug into his pale skin. He then tied them into a bow, and when he was done, aligned his shoes neatly by the feet of the sofa. Crowley was throbbing in his jeans. He took a box of chocolates from the coffee table. He plucked a dark chocolate cherry truffle out of it and lazily pushed it past his lips. He moaned obscenely as he sucked on it, and Crowley gripped his knees until his knuckles turned white. Then the angel proceeded to lick his fingers clean, while Crowley tried to remind his lungs how to breathe. "Well?" the angel asked, looking straight into the camera and pointing at the chocolates. "Are you going to make me finish these all by myself?" Crowley was out the door before Aziraphale could finish that sentence. While Aziraphale, still technically fully dressed, waited for him, and he was sure it was going to be a very short wait, he looked up at Crowley's surveillance plants and wondered, did the demon know his elegant spotless lilies turned into beautiful... His elegant spotless lilies turned into beautiful sunflowers when he turned on his TV to watch him, following him around as he moved through the bookshop? And did he know that they turned into ivy when he fell asleep, swaying gently as Aziraphale walked by? And did he know they were currently stuck as plump purple aubergines? Oh my god, that's amazing. Oh, that's sweet. Oh, that's sweet. Oh, that's horny. Oh, that's so cool. Nice. Crowley walks into the bookshop, peeks up at the plants. Fuck her up with all the eggplants. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye.